आवाज पहुंच रही है आपको?
यस सर।
ठीक है बेटी, कंटिन्यू करते हैं। ये अभी एक दो आए तो इनको इनवाइट करें, नहीं तो ये नाराज हो जाएंगे। अच्छा, तो देन this was the best example of flu. Suppose if a person is suffering from flu, it means that there is certain defect in human organism. So that's why the man will not be able to enjoy the true flavors of the things, true flavors of things, right? So here, the most important point we are going to discuss: if in the sound state of the organ there be an entire or considerable uniformity of sentiment among them, we may then drive an idea of the perfect beauty. It means that in order to enjoy a perfect beauty, we should have uniformity of sentiments, right? Either among us or among means men. So if you want to enjoy perfect beauty, that there must be uniformity of all the things. In like manner as appearance of object in daylight. For example, so if you have uniformity of sentiments, if you don't lack anything which is essential to appreciate beauty, then your standard of taste will certainly be very high. He has given an example to us that, for example, in broad daylight, if the thing is there, you can easily observe it, you can easily see it, you can easily have all the aspects of it. Suppose if the same is put in darkness, darkness means the defective, means either there's a defect in object, or you lack something, then beauty cannot be enjoyed at all. So this is the best example over here. Hume's analogy with color is illuminating. The healthy organism perceives true and real color, even though color is accepted as being a sensation created by organism itself. By analogy, the healthy organism experience a true and real beauty, even though we all agree beauty and taste are subject. It means that we agree on one point, that beauty and taste are subjective. And subject means a person must possess uniformity of sentiments. The beauty is true and real because it is established upon a structure of mind. A structure of mind means that again intellectual beauty. What you will find over here, different type of words and different type of terms, but the focus of attention is one thing, and that is the aim. And the aim is that how you will be able to uh, develop a standard of task. That is by variations. Variations in what? Number one, the structure of mind, and second is the context in which objects are experienced. So, context, how you will be able to see the things in context, right? The objects of are experienced especially in the context. Sorry. Hence, the variation is hence the variation in the pleasure felt. So, in the variation, you will also find a pleasure. It means that overall we have understood two things. Number one, uh, intellectual beauty must be there. And number two, when you look at the thing, especially, when you look at an object especially in the context, right? Now, again, for example, I have sent you poetry, which I have mentioned earlier, and you may go through the same. As far as the context is concerned, then suppose if the context is the bad incident of motorway, and and we have different type of voices of people and etc. over there. But now see, suppose if you are a responsible person, then you should speak each and every word uh, wisely, means think 100 times before you speak the words in such type of situation. Your aim should be to to redress the means redress the wounds of people. You should not means add fuel to fire. You should not speak like this. So context of object is essential overall. Hume is saying that some objects or properties are naturally calculated. Okay, so you will find certain type of things which are in their perfect form. Why? Because they are naturally calculated. They are naturally perfect. Take an example of means heavy rainfall throughout the scene. All that was natural. It was not handmade. It was not artificial. In the same way, waterfalls are natural. So that's why they are naturally calculated. Calculated in the sense, then for example, if you think about human body, its functions, systems of human body, you will find each and everything calculated. Calculated. For example, normal temperature and raised temperature. Normal temperature. If your temperature moves upward 9900, then you will fall ill. If it is reduced, you will feel certain type of suffering. So natural things are calculated overall to please us, where the structure of our mind. Certainly, we have been created means with all the characteristics. Okay, to return to color, our experience, our sensation of color is created for us by the brain. So, whole the systems are there in the brain of man, but it is an interpretation based upon actual data. So, each and everything is means God gifted. Okay, as far as the structures are concerned. But what we do whenever we interpret the things, over there, our interpretation is personal. How it is personal? Sometimes what happens that your interpretation is different and mine is different, or my interpretation is different. How? But it is up to it is up to the experience, it is up to the knowledge, it is up to the intellectual beauty, it is up to the wisdom, it is up to your means way of life and etc. So we especially interpret the things in the light of our background knowledge. Different colors represent a different wavelength of light. So here, this line is concerned with physics. That may be scientifically measured. Similarly, beauty is a subjective feeling, but that feeling has a causal relationship with specific objective properties. Beauty that you possess is certainly subjective type of feeling. But on the other hand, object objective properties also play vital role in order to create a relationship between your sentiments and the image of object, right? Is it clear? Are you listening to me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Is it understandable
Yes,
now?
sir.
Right, right.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let us move forward. Here you will find the most interesting type of examples. An example of variability across individuals is delicacy of imagination. Delicacy of imagination. Delicacy of imagination, that how do we imagine the things? How do we think about the different type of things over here? This is the variation bit among people. So it is up to your imagination or the delicacy of imagination. It is valued by all, best exercised by fewer, all but exercised by fewer, fewer. It means that all the people are ready to value the things, but there are few people who exercise all these things or utilize all these things. To define what he means by delicacy, Hume takes an illustration from Don Quixote, right? Don Quixote. Don Quixote is not mentioned in your course, but when I was a student, we studied the same. This is one of the best novels of Cervantes, and in this novel, two types of ideas have been incorporated. Number one, idealism, and the other is realism. Here, the one character is idealist, Panza. Sancho Panza or Sancho Panza is idealist, whereas his servant or only other person, other character, the chief character of the novel, his name I think that has not been mentioned over here. The other character is realist, right? So both the ideas have been incorporated in this novel. And Cervantes, and this is known as Cervantes' masterpiece, and he was a French writer. He was a French novelist. When you go through the personal life of Cervantes, you cannot stop your tears. His personal life was very pathetic and full of tragedies. And you will be surprised to know that he was deceived at the hands of his friends. Right? So, because of that, he had to go into prison. And in prison, he wrote this novel. And when you go through the novel, you cannot stop your laughing. So, there is a contrast between means these two situations. As Sancho Panza, here there's some other example. I'm sorry, because of shortage of time, I can't go into the detail of novel, or I cannot share the story with you at the moment. So sometimes in classroom, I'll share the story that how Sancho Panza is idealist and how his other uh, servant was. You may call him servant. Sancho Panza was a landlord. Why? Because Esquire is written over here. Don's Esquire means Don Quixote. Don Quixote's Esquire. Esquire landlord. He was landlord, but he was idealist. Relates a story in which two of his relatives detected a taste of leather and iron in the glass of wine. What was the story? The story was that when they were presented a glass of wine, and when they took one or two sips, and afterwards they declared that there was a smell of leather and iron in wine. They were ridiculed for this until a and thong, key and thong. Key means a key, lock and key. Thong means a piece of leather were discovered in the wine cask. Cask means certainly uh, 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 container in which wine was placed, wine was put. So when they complain that wines they smell iron and leather, then first of all people ridicule at them, and then afterward they discovered that key and the piece of leather was placed in the cask, revealing that his relatives' judgment was in fact acute. So, so Sancho Panza was of the view that his relatives was genius type of people, so that's why the judgment was uh, quite exact. Are right. Sancho takes this as evidence that his own judgment of wine will also be acute. Acute. Why? For example, he assumes that the faculty runs in the family. It means that uh, such type of quality, such type of characteristics he has inherited from his forefathers in genetics means. This story is not the best example of what Hume is discussing, as Sancho's claim to good judgment in wine is based simply upon genetic inheritance, whereas Hume will later argue that good judgment comes through five criteria, including things like practice. Now, see, Hume does not believe in such type of inherited uh, standard of test, that it is in our blood, and I have got this from my forefathers, and genetically we are very much competent people, and etc. No, no, he does not believe in it. But Hume is of the view that you must have practiced five things, which we have mentioned earlier. Okay, you will be above from biasness. Your uh, 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 means study must be very much broad, and you must have knowledge faculties, are means intellectual knowledge, and you must have observation, you must have experiences, and you must have proper knowledge of the things as well. So it has nothing to do with genetic over here. So this is the most important type of thing. Okay, so from here we have learned one thing. We have learned one thing, that, for example, it cannot be believed that whatever means knowledge I possess, that I have in my blood, and etc. And as I have inherited it from my forefathers. No, no, he does not believe in it, but wants to make particular point. He goes on. Now, see, he further explains the point over here. What is the point? The point is, though, though it be certain that beauty and deformity more than sweet and bitter, are not qualities in object, but belong entirely to the sentiment, eternal or external. It must be allowed that there are certain qualities in objects which are fitted by nature to produce those particular feelings. Okay, so the point is very much clear over here that certain qualities of standard of task are in sentiments, are in intellectual beauty of a person, and other qualities are in object. And those qualities are fitted especially while composing the same object. Either it may be poetry, it may be novel, it may be prose, uh, or it may be play, or it may be any object of nature. You cannot say that 100% qualities are in object or 100% qualities are in subject, right? When I say subject, it means person. When I say object, it means that the thing that exists outside. Of course, the experiences varies across individuals, where the organs are so fine as to allow nothing to escape them, and at the same time so exact as to perceive every ingredient in composition. So certainly experience are of the vital importance, right? This we call delicacy of taste. And so this is the delicacy of taste. First of all, it was explained that what was the delicacy of taste? Delicacy of taste means imagination, imaginative power, thinking power, that you may let your thinking. Number two, this experience or this exercise must be continued. You must inculcate thinking power or thinking faculty in your inner self. And then you will certainly achieve a lot. And especially that delicacy of task will be developed. In making their delicate judgment of task, the critic draws upon the general rules of beauty being drawn from established model and from the observation of what pleases or displeases. Now, observation may be certainly sometimes good, sometimes not good. Here comes Hume's real point with the Sancho Panza's story. He likens finding the rules of composition to finding the key at the bottom of the wine cask. Until the key was found, it was impossible to prove the quality of Sancho, Sancho's relative judgment over that of their less delicate critics. But the key existed nonetheless. Once we have identified an award principle of art, once we have produced that key from the cask, we can justify our judgment and prove to our opponent that they lack delicacy of imagination. When we prove that the same principle may be applied to present case where he did not perceive or feel its influence, he must conclude upon the whole, but the fault lies in himself. It means that suppose if our standard of task is not quite good, then defect lies in our inner self. So that's why we will have to develop our intellectual beauty, thinking power, our experience and observations. Here, when we prove that the same principle may be applied to the present case where he did not perceive or feel its influence, he must conclude upon the whole that the fault lies in himself. Thus, we can use the standard of test to settle disputes about test. So, there are certain disputes regarding the test in this world. So, we will have to improve ourselves in order to prove that uh, uh, what should be standards of the test. This is quite a naive claim. Hume seems to take it for granted that delicate person can convince the other person by the force of reason. It means that means on the basis of force of reason, you can convince the other person as well, right? And here, from paragraphs numbers 17 to 27, in the next few paragraphs, Hume discusses what it takes to become a true judge, or what I'll call an ideal critic. He has already given us delicacy of imagination, which we have discussed now. So, whom we can call uh, a true judge, or what I will call an ideal critic. Who can be a true judge? Who can be an ideal critic? Certain critic, certainly a person who possesses delicacy of imagination. And now, if you look at the literature, or if, whatever experience you have regarding literature, you will find that the whole the emphasis has been given on thinking. But unfortunately, we don't find time to think over. When you sharpen your thinking power, then the number of things will be very much clear to you. And it is natural that whenever we are unable to get ideas, when we are tangled with tangled in different type of situations, then we start to think regarding the solution of the problems. And when we think over, then certainly some hidden powers uh, help us, and certain new ideas come in our brain in order to solve the problem. So imagination is very much essential. So from chapters number 17 to 19, Hume makes a case for improving our critical faculties through practice. Number one, imagination. Number two, practice. Delicate task. Delicate task is desirable, and everyone approves of it. The perfection of that beauty is to perceive with exactness its most minute objects, and allow nothing to escape its notice and observation. The perfection of the man and the perfection of the sense or feeling are found to be united. So now see that here the most important means ideas we have got uh, through David Hume, and those ideas are imagination, and those ideas are practice. Imagination, number one is imagination, and the other is practice. Every person wants or desires for delicate, uh, for delicacy of imagination, and other people also approves it, but we will have to practice the same. And let us to take example. The best example of it is that when we suppose that we are very much hungry, and when we pass by hotel, then the fragrance of or the sweet smell of uh, different type of food touch us. Oh wow, wow, what a food! Oh, now see, I'm very sorry to say that time is running out. So we can say wow, wow on the sweet smell of food, but with Vava, we cannot fulfill our desires of hunger until and unless we take food. So simply to say that this is desirable, this is good, and this is best, and etc., until and unless it is put into practice, we cannot achieve that. right? So as I mentioned, that time is up, so that's why let me to stop over here. And I think that from tomorrow onward, only tomorrow is Sunday, and then afterwards on Tuesday you will be, inshallah ta'ala, in the university. And if you have any questions regarding the same, then you feel it quite easy to ask me, please. So I will have to stop over here because of time. So that's why I don't feel ease and comfort in such type of things, because in classroom we have lot of time, and we have face-to-face discussion, and you are allowed to ask me questions. But overall, we should not uh, uh, be grumbling, but we should certainly try our level best to accommodate ourselves in any situation. So this is the requirement of situation. And I think that if you have any question, let me know. Okay. Otherwise, see you in the in class, inshallah, in university.